Yes, sir, Willard.
Yeah, I had my hand up earlier. I wanted to, and just as you introduced Arthur Kessler to the 13th tribe, I put my hand down because that's what I was going to comment on. But Kessler was, he was a Russian Jew, but he was a communist. So, like you said, he was very secular, but he was a brilliant researcher and a great writer.
I see.
Uh, and I think that the 13th tribe was published. Now I'm trusting memory, this old memory, around 1980 or so, and it hadn't been out very long, and the Jews, I'm sure the Ashkenazis, uh, they said they were going to kill him, and they wanted him to retract everything he said in the book, and I don't think he did, but he disappeared.
Correct. That's how I
You know,
Yeah.
I remember because that was right after I had read the book, read it pretty close to when it came out, and it's an easy read. It's I looked over there. It's $10 on Amazon, and I would encourage everyone to. Oh, the man's a great writer. The book moves fast, and it's a fabulous history. And thank you very much for this.
You're welcome. I'm glad that you have read the book.
Oh yeah, I've had an interest in this kind of stuff for many years. Yeah,
Okay, that's
thank you.
you're welcome. In chat room, the PDF of the book. See if you can download it. It is still uploading from my computer. Once it is done, you can download it. Yeah, it's done. Otherwise, I can email you the book if this subject interests you. And yes, Marlene, go ahead, please.
Actually, it's Tom. The scripture where it says they're neither, where you kind of wrapped up, neither Jews nor Greeks. The way you explained it, and if I followed it, the Jews are all over the place anyhow. So it's like they're not. They're calling all the people, not just one nation, and it's pretty obvious. It gives it a lot broader perspective on what that particular scripture would normally be looked at. So thank you for the information.
You're most welcome, Tom. I'm glad that you gave a patient listening to this presentation. It's not quite in Jeremiah, but we stepped out of scriptures. But anything that we discussed today would not affect our prophecy interpretation. The prophecy understanding, insight would remain same if the modern day Israel has real Judeans or Jews from Caesarea. It wouldn't make any difference the way we approach the subject. I want to say upfront. Are you done, Tom, or Marlene wants to say?
No, we're just trying to figure out how to lower the hand.
Okay, okay.
Right.
Can also do that. Yes, Sandra.
Yes, I'm not 100% sure of my question, but toward the end, you referenced two types of Jews in modern day.
Yeah.
And I didn't get those two types down.
I can share that. Sephardic and Ashkenazi.
I got.
Let me share that. Those
Wait.
are Sephardic and Ashkenazi. So let me share my screen.
And those two names can be referenced to the Jews today in Israel.
Yes, yes. But some of them could be offended if you say that.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Minority.
Because they don't want to be identified as Khazars. They want to be identified as Judeans.
Could you spell that Khazars for me?
Yeah,
K,
I'm sharing this 1 second.
Because.
I closed the presentation, that's why I'm just opening this and share you.
Oh.
Are you seeing the screen?
I'm trying to get, oh, that's the book showing now.
Yeah. So you have Sephardic Jews, SHEPH or SEPHARD,
SHA.
E, SEPHARD, Sephardic Jews. Those are minority, a fraction, and majority would be Ashkenaz. ASHKEN. ASHKENAZ. Ashkenaz.
Okay. I'm trying to get back to the chat room and then mute myself also.
Okay. No problem. I'll just stop the presentation. Yes, sir, buddy.
You mentioned Spain. Well, I know my daughters did a little research on their lineage, and they went all the way back to the Iberian Peninsula, which actually is the Hebrew Peninsula. It's what they used to call it, the Hebrew Peninsula, and Iberia. So Iberian Peninsula. So a lot of Jewish people were there, and probably a mixed multitude of Israelites also, the other tribes. So if a person says, well, you know, I'm Jewish because my parents came from the Iberian Peninsula or my grandparents, etc., doesn't mean a thing. Really, it doesn't mean a thing, because the Jewish people and the Levites and all of the tribes of Israel are scattered throughout the world. And there's hundreds of millions of them. It's not just one or two. It's hundreds of millions of Israelites scattered throughout the world. And God said, you know, that the Levites and the Jews and the Israelites will be like the sand of the sea. Wow, that's a lot of people. They're scattered all over the place. So some people get into this thing of, well, I'm a Benjamite or I'm a whatever. That means nothing. It means really nothing, because God knows who his people are, you know, wherever they are. So I don't think, well, I don't worry about it much. I don't know if I'm Jewish, Levite, or whatever, you know. I just know that, and I hope I'm a Christian, you know, a follower of Christ. So
That's
the race thing can get really out of hand very, very quickly.
Yep, you're right. Yeah, this material sometimes is used for anti-Semitic reasons, to put down Jews and tell them that you are the people who killed Christ. So you attack innocent people. They have nothing to do with that. Like, there are lots of Jews. They are very good people, nice people. I know them personally. Some of them are in the churches, COGs. There's one family in Phoenix, Arizona. Very nice family. And we shouldn't be assaulting them under anti-Semitism. But there are other things. When we come to realm of spirit, we have Zionism, political Zionism. That's a different beast. That's a different movement. So that we would address when we come to Mystery Babylon.
So if we go with a parallel kind of thing, a shadow and reality, would the Ashkenazi Jews destroy the end time Babylon? are they going to be called by God as they were here in Jeremiah 51? Would they be summoned and gathered to destroy the end time Babylon? It's a
That's-
fair question.
That's a good question, actually. But between shadow and spiritual reality, when you come from there to here, spiritual reality, sometimes they're not same people. Like Egypt, physical Egypt, like when you come to spiritual Egypt, it could be referring to completely different set of people. Who knows? I mean, I want to leave that possibility of not being the same people. You're raising a possibility of being the same people. We have to make a case either way.
You know, one of the problems I see with a lot of written history concerning migration of peoples and displacement of peoples and the diaspora is when they try to calculate numbers. Like, for example, he calculated that there were 500,000 Sephardic Jews at one time in recent history. What happens in any culture, it's like saying how many Germans are in America. Well, Germans certainly did migrate here, but they got amalgamated in with other peoples. They married the Swedes and they married the Dutch and the Brits. So is their offspring still German, or are they a mixture? Well, obviously they don't come from, the offspring are not really identifiable with one European nation. So I see the Jews that way also, that look, the Jews in the old ancient world had all kinds of captives that were amalgamated in. And throughout the Dark Ages and the Middle Ages and into the Renaissance, they were intermixing. So to say that there's Ashkenazi and Sephardic separated, how is that even possible when they've been intermarrying with each other? So I have a little bit of a hard time with anyone who would calculate a specific number or percentage, because after all, they've been intermarrying for centuries, the same way the Germans have. You see my point?
Yeah, I see your point. What you said is very true for Ashkenazi. It's very hard to track Ashkenazi, except by their religion and their migratory routes. But Sephardic is easy because they're there, Liberia and Spain, for more than 1,000 years. They were not intermarrying. They were very kind of clannish, and they preserved their rich heritage. So it's easy to see them and count them. So there's still very, very few people, even in Israel today. You can identify them with their language, their culture, and their customs. And still they try to intermarry only among themselves, Sephardic Jews. And Ashkenazi is a different beast you are talking about. They still have those characteristics of very militant and some kind of that he talks more about them being cruel. And I always believed Muslims and Arabs were most cruel people on the earth, but they met with this level of cruelty. They were terrorized. So the only people who can stop cruel Muslims in the sense of invading Islamizers are Khazars. They are really, really dangerous people to mess with. So you have those characteristics still, but Ashkenazi is no longer a racial stock. as Buddy said, there are lots of intermixture. If you go through this book, it's a fascinating research document. I think we should, if you have time, we should at least read it once, just to be aware of what these terms are, who are Ashkenazi. Because you keep hearing this on Christian forums and Christian conversations. Oh, they're Ashkenazi. You don't necessarily agree with what book says. At least it gives you a background, what they mean when they say Ashkenazi. Or when you say Ashkenazi, they are infuriated. People from Israel. Why they are infuriated? So you know the background. So they don't want to be associated as somebody non-Judeans. They want to be identified as the true descendants of Abraham, and obviously they want to claim to be true chosen people. That's what they want to claim. But if you bring these things, then everything is questioned. So they get infuriated. So we use caution when we use these terms, I think. But you are right. You can question the statistics.
Yeah, and if it's true that the Ashkenazi were not careful who they mixed with, but they mixed with all kinds, then their true identity has also been completely diluted by the nations that they mixed with. So they aren't really Ashkenazi as they were 1,500 years ago.
No,
They
that's
can't be
Yeah.
because they've intermingled with so many nations that even to say that there is such a thing as an Ashkenazi is an inaccurate statement because they've intermingled for so many hundreds and hundreds of years.
That's he exactly addresses that issue in the book. He makes the rape as a biggest cause because all the invaders would rape their woman, and after they beget the children, invaders would just leave mercilessly. They move on, but the Khazars would collect the woman back along with the children, and then they valued and loved their. So they come up with lots of intermixture. And Khazar Jews, there are some people just look like Germans. They just look like French. They just look like American Anglo-Saxons. You have so much alike. Like it started with Chengiz Khan, who killed a bunch of them, and then also his soldiers impregnated this Khazarian woman. So you have Chengiz Khan like people also. Now, it's impossibility to go with racial approach to them. You're very right. But not the story with Sephardic is not like that. Sephardic are so secluded and developed as a separate, isolated clan. So it's easy to know them, to count them. It's possible, and but you can always question if it is exactly 50,000 or so. That's debatable. You're right. Yes, Willard.
The thought just occurred to me. The Khazars were such vicious, fierce fighters.
Mhm.
Look at the IDF today.
What
They're
is
pretty. They it's about the toughest army in the world. Just a thought.
You're right. If you take Mossad, the spy agency, that's rated #1 in the world. #1 bankers are Jews. Again, money. The government money, king's money. Again, Jews. And you have so many things like that. It started with Khazars. You can trace them. like especially Mossad.